नेपाल टेलिभिजन समाचारका साथमा
नेपालमै नवीन प्रविधिद्वारा उत्पादित जगदम्बा सुपर साइन तथा ग्याल्भा प्लस जस्ता पाता जीवनभरको भरोसा।
फोनमा भन्छ हेलो अनि इन्टरनेटमा हाई, टिभी खोली चिल बसो दुनियाँलाई बाई। चाकको दम सबैको घरमा अब नेपाल टेलिकम।
Hello there, welcome to News from Nepal Television. I am Smithu Gising Tamang. Let's begin with the top stories for this afternoon. Meeting of top leaders of ruling coalition to be held today to dwell on distribution of seats for the upcoming elections. Senior leader Jalnath Khanal announces CPN Unified Socialist and CPN Maoist Centre is to unify soon post the elections. US former President Trump sues Justice Department over raid. Lawsuit seeks further review of seized materials be halted. And Eric Ten Hag secures his first win as Manchester United manager. The Red Devils beat Liverpool 2-1. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. The meeting of the top leaders of the ruling coalition is to be held today. A meeting is scheduled to be held again today to agree on the distribution of seats for the upcoming elections. According to Congress leader and Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Gyanendra Bahadur Karki, the meeting of the top leaders of the alliance will be held this afternoon at 3 at Prime Minister's official residence in Baluwatar. He said that since the discussion is close to an agreement can be reached in today's meeting. In yesterday's meeting, the leaders said they were close to an agreement on the issue of seat allocation. It has been agreed to participate in the election by dividing the seats between the alliance parties in the House of Representatives and Provincial Assembly elections on November 20th. The Power Alliance has formed a working group under the leadership of Nepali Congress leader Krishna Prasad Satola for seat allocation. Senior leader of CPN Unified Socialist Jalnath Khanal has announced that his party and the CPN Maoist Centre would be unified soon after the elections. Senior leader Khanal said this during a program organized by his party at Tansen on Monday. Khanal further argued that his party was close to the Maoist Centre in terms of policy, principles and thoughts, which was paving way for the unification. Khanal also underscored the need for unification among all communist parties for building a strong communist party in Nepal. According to him, a task force was formed by the ruling alliance to decide on the seat sharing for coming November 20 election, which would give final decision within some days. The meeting of the House of Representatives has been postponed for a week. In the meeting that started this morning at 10, possible agendas were to present the notice of opposition presented by Prem Sewal on the motion seeking permission to present the disappeared persons investigation, Truth Finding and Reconciliation Commission Third Amendment Bill 2079. The meeting that was held this morning has postponed the meeting for Bhadra 13 as per Nepali calendar at 11 a.m. in the morning. According to the Parliament Secretariat, there is a possible agenda to be presented by the Minister of Law, Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, Govindra Prasad Sharma Koirala, in the meeting of the Investigation of Disappeared Persons, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Third Amendment Bill 2079. Yesterday's meeting was adjourned after passing a condolence resolution on the death of Congress leader and member of the House of Representatives, Pradeep Giri. Time for a break now. We shall be back with more updates. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with English News on Nepal Television. Now the international update. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, along with multiple countries' permanent representative to UN on Monday, called on countries around the world to reach consensus and make due contributions to common security. A UN Security Council briefing was held on Monday on promoting common security through dialogue and cooperation. The briefing was hosted by China, attended by UN Secretary General Guterres and representatives from multiple countries. While addressing the briefing, Guterres stressed the need to reinforce a global consensus around the cooperation required to ensure collective security. The tools that have kept humanity for catastrophic world wars are more important than ever, but they must be fit for today's rapidly deteriorating international peace and security environment, he said. Weeks of record heat and drought has shrunk China's largest freshwater lake and left the surrounding rice-producing areas under a serious water supply shortage. Satellite images released by the Ministry of Natural Resources showed that Poyang Lake had fallen to about 600 square kilometers from nearly 4,000 square kilometers in April. Jiangxi is one of the 13 major grain-producing provinces in China, and the area around Poyang Lake is the main rice-producing area in the province. The lake's water level continues to drop, and the rice yield this year is at stake, with the drought occurring during the grain filling and heading period, according to the local authorities. Local authorities help farmers setting up pipelines to channel water of reservoirs, digging wells to pump up groundwater in order to relieve the drought in paddy fields. China has been hit by record high monthly temperatures in large swaths of the country, along with droughts that have severely reduced hydroelectric production. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Tuesday announced an inquiry after his predecessor, Scott Morrison, gave extra powers to himself when he was in the top job. Albanese was speaking in Canberra after reviewing the Solicitor General's advice on the legality of some of former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's moves. Albanese said that Morrison's behaviour was extraordinary and undermined the country's parliamentary democracy. Between March 2020 and May 2021, Morrison was appointed Minister of Health, Finance, Home Affairs, Treasury and Industry, moves which appeared to have given him equal powers to the ministers already appointed to those positions. Morrison has said that giving himself extra powers when he was Australia's Prime Minister was necessary during the coronavirus crisis. Time again for a break. We shall be back with more updates too. Stay tuned. Now the remaining updates. We're still on international front. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has asked a judge to freeze a Justice Department investigation of files seized from his home in an FBI search. In a lawsuit, his legal team asked that an independent lawyer be appointed to oversee documents that agents removed from Mar-a-Lago in Florida this month. 11 sets of classified files were taken from Trump's estate on 8 August, according to the FBI. Trump is being investigated for potentially mishandling documents. On Monday, his lawyers asked that a third-party attorney, known as a special master, be appointed to determine whether the seized files are covered by executive privilege, which allows presidents to withhold certain communications from public release. Russia has accused Ukrainian special services of killing the daughter of one of President Vladimir Putin's allies in a car bombing at the weekend. Daria Dukina, aged 29, died on Saturday when a vehicle she was driving exploded near Russia's capital, Moscow. Her prominent ultra-nationalist father, Alexander Dugin, said to be close to Putin, may have been the intended target of the attack. Ukrainian officials have denied any involvement in the explosion, but Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, said on Monday it had solved the case and said that Ukraine was directly responsible. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Monday with the leaders of Iraq, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain as world powers and Iran seek to end 16 months of negotiations over the revival of Tehran's landmark nuclear deal. Al-Sisi and Emirati President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan received King Abdullah II of Jordan, Iraqi caretaker Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi, and Bahrain's King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa at the airport in the Mediterranean city of Al Alamein. The UAE leader arrived at the coastal city a day earlier and held separate talks with his Egyptian counterpart that focused on ties between the regional allies, Al-Sisi's office said. The five-party talks focused on consolidating ties and cooperations between their countries, according to an Egyptian statement which described the gathering as a front meeting. Many of the Gulf nations, Saudi Arabia in particular, have grave concerns about Iran's activity in the region. They fear that reviving the 2015 deal would include economic relief for Tehran's hardline regime, allowing it to expand its meddling in their internal affairs. More updates lined up at the other side, but before that, let's take a look at what we have coming up next. A report conducted by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Traffic has suggested there was a decrease in the number of rhinos killed by poaching in 2021. The dramatic reduction in the species has been due to decades of rampant poaching. Their horns have been used as carving material and prized in traditional Chinese medicine for their supposed healing properties. Southern white rhinos as well as black rhinos are prime prey for poachers, the former being listed as near threatened on the IUCN International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species, with the latter critically endangered. India and Nepal put effective prevention measures in place and in the past decade have seen significant reductions. Although still under threat there, they have kept poaching low since 2014. And before we say goodbye, the reminder of our top stories. Meeting of top leaders of ruling coalition to be held today to dwell on distribution of seats for the upcoming elections. Senior leader Jalnath Kanal announces CPN Unified Socialist and CPN MC is to unify soon post the elections. US former President Trump sues Justice Department over raids. A lawsuit seeks further review of seized materials be halted. And Erik ten Hag secures his first win as Manchester United manager. The Red Devils beat Liverpool 2-1. That's it for this edition of NTV News. Thanks for staying with us. Goodbye. Namaste.